Nima, welcome back to the show. You are such a welcome guest. Your interview with me last year was enormously popular. I'm sorry to bring you back on, as it were, a non-football topic. But answer me, please. Why would Israel be welcome in Paris at the Olympic Games? Why are Israel even playing in the European Football Championships?
Well, first of all, it's good to be with you, and Happy New Year, George. I'm glad to be with you. I wish it was in happier circumstances. Look, this is something that those of us who are a little bit perhaps more cynical, and I don't suggest that you are one of those people, would say is just par for the course. On the 24th of February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine, politically supported by Belarus, 4 days later, the FIFA Council and the UEFA Executive Committee suspended all Russian teams, including Russian youth teams, for the actions of the Russian and Belarusian government. The IOC set up a solidarity fund on the 28th of February 2022. They issued recommendations following a resolution to not allow Russian and Belarusian athletes and officials to participate in any competitions under the umbrella of the Olympic movement, which included the Paralympic sports. Just imagine that. The IOC literally wrote, and I'm quoting from their homepage now, "The Olympic movement is united in its sense of fairness not to punish athletes for the decisions of their government if they are not actively participating in them. We are committed to fair competitions for everybody without discrimination." The current war in Ukraine, however, puts the Olympic movement in a dilemma. While athletes from Russia and Belarus would be able to continue to participate in sport events, many athletes from Ukraine are prevented from doing so because of the attack on their country. Well, back in 2018, the Palestinian national football team has, according to some reports, back then already lost 9 national players alone due to loss of limbs. That was 2018. We're now 3 months into an unhinged industrial scale exercise in mass murder, where some reports claim over 30,000 civilians have been killed, 2/3 of them women and children, on top of the starvation imposed on Gaza and the Palestinian people there as a tactic of war. This is without mentioning the systematic bombardment of hospitals, whereby now death and famine is joined by severe outbreaks of illnesses due to the lack of adequate healthcare available due to this illegal blockade. So the IOC, UEFA, FIFA, and all these other organizations have painted themselves into a corner. As I and many of us said at the time when speaking to media organizations, when we spoke out against the politicization of sports and football in particular, because we said at the time, we warned, if you cross this bridge, you will be forced to apply this in political matters that you're not comfortable with in applying. Well, now that shoe is very much on the other foot. That is, if you're so lucky as to have 2 feet, unlike many athletes in Gaza who have had their feet and other limbs blown off by Israel, but in weapon attacks given to them by Joe Biden after he bypassed Congress just the other week. So the question is now, is the IOC a NATO toy, or is it truly an international organization for all of sports? Do all lives truly matter, or does the NATO cause du jour life matter more? Many have asked what to do. Well, now we must put pressure on these people to prove us, the cynics, wrong, that all lives do matter. Israel must be suspended from all sporting activities with effect of immediately until they end the illegal occupation of not 1, but 3 countries, which they have occupied for decades, on top of being an apartheid racist state.
Well, that's an extraordinarily powerful answer to my question. So powerful that you're left to wonder why no one has attempted to square that circle. Why no one in the so-called mainstream media is even raising the fact that Russia was banned within days and Israel has killed 30,000 civilians, overwhelmingly women and children, and nobody's even raising the question of a ban. Nima, what if they're convicted of genocide in the ICJ? Are we going to have a genocide 11 playing in the Euros? Are we going to have genocide javelin throwers and middle distance runners competing in France at the Olympics? This is ludicrous, isn't it?
It's beyond ludicrous. It's utterly bizarre. It feels like we're in some sort of parallel universe where up is down and down is up. Look, what we are seeing now, given that Belarus, without actually being involved in the war, were also suspended, and the federations of many countries, including especially Sweden in winter sports, have been vocal about their opposition to that. They now have to answer to this. They are now responsible for this because their governments are actively aiding and abetting this genocide. And it is a genocide. Personally, much like your viewers who have voted in the poll, I don't believe that Israel will be convicted of genocide because of how the political status quo as it is. But the fact of the matter is, I hope that you're right and that, that you prove me wrong. What you said, I was listening to what you said earlier, that they have no choice but to convict them. I personally am a little bit more cynical. I think they'll just simply find a way to legally weasel their way out of it, as they have always done. But let's say that they do it exactly as you say, or if they are unable to, if they don't get convicted, what possible weight does this have in the world, in the eyes of the world? Everyone has seen it. We've seen people all over the world, from Stockholm to Washington to South Africa to Australia. Everyone is out in millions marching against the systematic murder and extermination of the Palestinian people, while everyone was celebrating Christmas and New Year's. And we're supposed to just ignore it and move on to the next thing. Well, we're not moving on. Israel has to be banned. It's as simple as that.
Nima, by the way, there's a petition being got up by Varoufakis' outfit, DM25. People should sign it. Many thousands are doing so you can actually physically do something about this. There it is there. Suspend Israel from international sports. I urge you all to sign that petition. bit.ly/Israel ban. bit.ly/Israel ban. I encourage everyone to lend their support to that. But Nima, the truth is that all these countries that told us that politics should be kept out of sport, something that in an ideal world I would agree with, actually really mean keeping some politics out of sport and other politics very firmly in it. I was at a Scotland game where all the corner flags were Ukrainian flags, where all the furniture, where all the billboards were in Ukrainian colors. And Graham Souness actually said that Scotland should let Ukraine win so that they would go through rather than Scotland. How's that for politics in sport? Yeah, as you know, the Celtic supporters caused massive fines on Celtic Football Club for the simple act of holding up Palestinian flags in the crowd. This is all so brazen. I'm wondering how nobody but thee and me are recognizing it.
Well, you see, that's the thing, George. I think more than thee and me are recognizing it. You see, I think the hypocrisy of it, this so-called rules-based order, which is basically my rules today, and I've changed them whenever I feel like it. Everyone has seen it. It's out in the open. No one's buying it anymore. It's absolute nonsense. It's nothing more than whatever they feel like doing at the day of choosing, and they don't feel that they should be held to account. Well, the world isn't buying it anymore. The multipolar world is here. The age of where they could do whatever they want, where NATO countries could do whatever they want, spearheaded by the United Kingdom and, of course, the United States, where they could do whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want, in any manner they want, and no one can hold them to account, is over. This has been a ginormous failure for them. The only thing that Israel and NATO is good at doing is murdering women and children. Militarily, they are being destroyed in battles between militaries in Gaza and in around the area. So all they are, and they have lost the entire narrative, so they have nothing left. And therefore, it's incredibly important. You mentioned that. What is it we can do? Well, here is something everyone can do. Everyone who has the internet can do this. Go on and sign that letter. Read that letter, and I really hope you bring on the author of that letter on your show, the great Katarina Pietkovic, a legal scholar with 2 PhDs in law, a brilliant legal sports mind, who can explain in far better detail than I can the legal framework supporting this. She worked day and night tirelessly putting this together, and now it's out there. You all can do it. Go out and sign it. Prove me wrong. Prove me the cynic, and prove George right. Settle this bet between us. Prove George right that they will have to do something here, and prove me as a cynic and make me look stupid and say you were wrong, Nima. They all lives do matter. Go now and sign that letter. Israel has to be banned from the International Sporting Committee for as long as it is an apartheid state, occupies 3 countries, and continues to impose this mass murdering genocide on the Palestinian population. That's what you can do. Don't ask what you can do. Don't let these feelings of hopelessness consume you in your solitude. There is something you can do. You can go to demonstrations. You can sign petitions. You can organize on grassroots, a grassroots level, and tell the rulers that they are ruler of our minds and hearts no more.
Finally, Nima, there's going to be trouble in Paris at the Olympic Games if Israel show up with the blood still running in profusion, not just in Gaza, but in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, where today, I saw the film. I saw the white phosphorus bombs landing in a town in South Lebanon. A clear crime under international law. In Lebanon, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, and God knows where else by the time we get to the Olympic Games. Maybe in the Yemen, the poorest country, one of the, if not the poorest country in the whole world, maybe on fire with blood everywhere. And we're really going to see Israel at the Olympic Games in Paris? Is Macron mad?
Well, I think that's a trick question, because I don't think Macron is mad, but I do think he and the rest of these so-called supine gentlemen and ladies who lead the EU and Britain and the rest of the West are not mad, but they are bought. I'll come out and say it. They work at the behest of the oligarchy, and the oligarchy wants this. Otherwise, this would not be happening. Now, I do think, again, prove me wrong, I think that Israel will turn up at the Olympics. I think they won't even bother to go ahead with the song and dance of forcing them to participate under a neutral Olympic flag, but they will force them, but they will allow them to participate, and they will call, like they have always done, accuse everyone who speaks out of being anti-Semitic. But the problem is, these old tricks don't bite anymore. It's out in the open. No one believes a word they say. And therefore, it's important now more than ever, when their lies have been exposed, when they have been exposed for being the mass murdering, genocidal, fascist hacks that they are, Now's the time to push on even harder. Now's the time to expose everyone and say, if you really believe in the Olympic movement and your anti-discrimination, prove it. Don't just talk a pretty sentence, prove it with your actions. Ban Israel now.
I said finally, but another question occurred to me, and you're a good man to answer it. Your football podcast is the gold standard. There are hundreds, many hundreds of players whom I hazard a guess feel the pain of the people in Palestine very keenly indeed. I could name names, no need to. There are hundreds of Arab players in top flight football around Europe and elsewhere. There are even more hundreds of Muslim players. Where is the John Carlos moment is what I'm thinking of. Where is the athlete who will don the black glove and stand on the podium, will do something, say something powerful enough to jolt at least their own fan base into discussing this and these issues?
Well, we saw what they did to poor Youssef Attal, the Algerian footballer in France, who handed him a suspended sentence for reposting a video claiming he was anti-Semitic when he was critical of what Israel was doing. We've seen it in the past before. This is what they do. They reign. They are like the mafia. They reign by terror. As soon as somebody speaks out, they go after him in such a way that they silence him. They take away his livelihood. They fine them. They throw everything that they can at them so that they can deter anyone else from speaking up after them. But the question now remains: how many more people have to die, and is your money really that good? To paraphrase a Bob Dylan song, which I know you love as well.
Wow. Nima, I could talk to you all night, and many of the viewers are saying they wish I could. Let's talk again sooner. Thank you very much for joining us on the Mother of All Talk Shows.